Okay, we are going to heal. We are going to heal. Come on with me now. Squeeze. Feel it. Know it. Heal with me. Say it with me. Healing. I don't feel healed. I don't feel healed yet. Let's do it again. Squeeze harder, darling. Squeeze. Squeeze. Feel it. Accept it. Live it. Internalize it. Digest it. Healing. I'm gonna pop a vein.
I'm gonna try. Work till I die. I'm gonna fail and get up, 'cause I'm not giving up on my dream.
Hey gorgeous, and welcome to my channel. I'm Kopano Shimange, and this is How I Do Things, the show where you send me your questions and I'll let you know how I would do things, and I can take it as entertainment, use it as advice, take it, don't take it, use it, don't use it at all. Listen, honey, do what you will with it. Honestly, do what you want with it. Do you know why? Because me, moi. Not a professional. I'm not a professional whatsoever. I'm just letting you know what I would do if I was in your shoes. Today we're talking about healing and accepting your past. I think this is one thing that so many of you ask me about healing. How do I heal from the past? How do I heal from past relationships? And sometimes we're healing from things that we didn't even do. We feel as though we had a hard life leading to where we are now. And it's very hard to accept the way we were born, that people did things to us that were wrong, either that we were abused or we went through things that no girl should have ever gone through, and now we have these things with us. So when we feel like we need to heal, there's always something that has happened to us. There's always something that is not positive, that is negative, whether we cheated on our exes, or whether we were addicted or still are addicted to pornography or promiscuity, or we are lustful, or that we weren't good people. We feel that way. I think everyone has something about themselves that they don't necessarily like or are not proud of, and some of those things aren't even our fault, right? These are things that happen to us, and it's really unfair. So we're all dealing with something that we have to heal from and move on from, but it becomes very difficult when you carry that thing on your back, and it stops you from experiencing life right now to the fullest. So how do we get over that? How do we heal from that thing? I've had my own past experiences, and I think a lot of people who know me and know who I was 6-7 years ago would say that I've gone through a big change, and I'm a completely different and new person. How do you do that? How do you transform as an individual and become a whole new person? How do you actually make that happen? How do you successfully do that without carrying that baggage or those scars from the past with you? Number one is for you to know that everybody has this internal conversation. We have our own thoughts, right? We think about life. We think about things that happened. We think about who we are, what we should do. Every single time we think about our purpose. Even if when you want to go make a cup of tea, you start to think. You have a conversation inside your head. Everybody has a conversation internally in their heads. This is not craziness. This is something that happens to all of us. When we have to wake up in the morning, we have this internal conversation saying, I have to switch off the alarm. That's the internal conversation that happens within us. Now, it's important for you to understand that that internal conversation that is happening within you can either be a good internal conversation or it can be a bad one. It can be positive thoughts or it can be negative thoughts. It's also important for you to realize that there are two main voices that can happen in your head. Even though you're having one thought, it can either stem from the Holy Spirit, a good place, something of God, or it can stem from a voice that we created ourselves. And this voice that we created ourselves can be hurt. It's a voice from the past experiences that we've had. It's a voice that we've created. It's motivated by our own thoughts, our past experiences, what we think of ourselves, our worthiness, our non-worthiness, our scars, and our healing. And that internal voice, that one, is what we call the ego. Now, when we think of the ego, we think to ourselves that, okay, it's, people who are big and people who think of themselves a lot and people who are arrogant. And that's not what it is. All the ego is just this internal voice that we have created for ourselves, our own rationalization that we have. And it can be positive. It can make us humble. It can make us arrogant. It can make us confident. It can make us quiet. It just is an internal conversation in our own mind and how we create it or how we think of ourselves. So you have to be aware of this internal conversation that's happening inside of you, and whether whatever it is that you're saying to yourself and about yourself, is it coming from the Holy Spirit? Is it coming from something that God has given you? Or is it coming from your past? You comparing yourself to other people, your experiences in your life, who you think you are, and what you are created to be. So once we know this, we then move to point number 2, is that the reason why we don't heal is because we keep bringing up these circumstances. We keep bringing up these places, these events and things that happen to us where the hurt lies. So we keep reminding ourselves of the type of people we used to be. We keep reminding ourselves of the bad things that we have done. We keep reminding ourselves of embarrassing moments. This is something that I used to do a lot. I used to remember these embarrassing moments randomly, and then I'd feel bad about myself all over again. Even though the thing happened when I was in grade 7, or it happened when I was 21 years old, or it happened last week, I would think about that embarrassing thing and I'd feel bad about myself all over again. When that happens, that is the voice of the ego, this internal voice that we have inside of us that is reminding us of the bad things that have happened to us, the bad things that we have done, and it reminds us of the negative. Because here's the thing about the Holy Spirit, it will never do that. It will never ever remind you of the negative. It will always remind you of the positive. It will be the possibilities. It will be the good of you, because the Holy Spirit does not keep a record of all the bad things that you have done and keeps bringing them up every single time. That is not the function of the Holy Spirit as our teacher, as our guide, and as our comforter. That doesn't happen. So every single time we relive those things and we think of those things, that is the ego, and that's how we keep ourselves from healing every single time. It's because those thoughts, those moments, those events continue to live and have a space in our heads and in our hearts and in our minds, and they keep being brought up, and they keep hurting us again and again and again. We can do absolutely nothing about the past. It has happened. It is written the way it is written. It is done. However, in the present, we can keep ourselves from healing or moving on from those things by bringing those things forward in our thoughts, the things that we remember. Now, number 3 is where the big change comes in, and that is to stop resurrecting the dead. It's a big line. Stop resurrecting the dead. Every single time we let those events come back into our minds, every single time we let those thoughts of the bad things we did, the bad people we met, the bad things that happened to us, we resurrect the dead. Those things are dead. So I want to tell you about the specific verses in the Bible that I always reminded myself of when I was going through this whole personal change in my life, when I accepted God again. All right? It was in January. I accepted God again, and I said, this time we will have a relationship. This time you will change me, Jesus. And as that happened, I changed the way I thought about myself, and I accepted that the old me had died, had passed away. And every single time somebody tried to remind me or tried to resurrect the dead in terms of my old habits, the things that I used to like and the things that I used to do, I would refuse for them to resurrect the dead in me. I would refuse for them to make me go back to that. And it's about accepting the things that are dead in your life. All right, so here it is. It's in Romans 6, verse 1 to 4, as well as 6. It says, what shall we say then? Should we continue to live in sin so that God's grace will increase? Surely not. We have died to sin. How then can we go on living in it? For surely you know that when we were baptized into union with Jesus Christ, we were baptized by our baptism then. We were buried with him and share his death, in order that just as Christ has risen from death by glorious power of the Father, also we might live a new life. And we know that our old being has been put to death with Christ on his cross, in order that the power of the sinful self might be destroyed, so that we shall no longer be slaves to sin. And that's what I mean, is that when you accept that Jesus died for you, he took away all the sins and the bad things that happened in your life. So even the things that other people did to you, so even the molestation, the rape, the bad things, the hijacking, the deaths that have happened, the bad things that you may have even done, the sins that you may have even done, being the type of person that you used to be, you can, at that very moment when you accept renewal, that person and those things that happened to that person died on the cross. And every single time you meet a person, or every single time you have an internal conversation that wants to resurrect that, you have to remind yourself that no, that person, that thing has died. It happened. It's dead. And refuse to resurrect the dead. So every single time that would happen to me, I would meet a friend or somebody would call me and try to resurrect the dead, either in habits or thoughts or anything like that. I would always say this to myself, that the old has passed away, it is dead, and I'm a new person completely. I've risen in a new person, and the only thing that has risen with me is all the good. Remember when Jesus died on the cross, he did not disappear. The bad disappeared, but the good rose with him. So the bad in you and the bad that happened in your past, that died, it's buried, and you need to let it die. Let the dead live. Let the dead die. Right? Let those who are buried remain buried. Let the things that have died, let them remain dead. And when they try to resurrect them, when your ego tries to resurrect them in your mind, the only thing it wants to do is keep you attached to the dead. It wants to resurrect the dead. Refuse it. Deny it completely and say it is dead. Every single time. It is dead and I am new. Constantly affirming that to yourself. And this just leads me to point number 4, which is then also accept the healing that comes with it. Right? This analogy I thought about, which really depicts what healing is. So you receive this delivery, right? From Jesus, signed Jesus, and you accept this delivery. You have no clue what's inside this box. It's a big box, this big. And you're busy with your life, so you put it somewhere. And you like cooking, so you cook. You're chopping onions. You are chopping tomatoes. You're grating tomatoes to make nice gravy. You are making your teas. You're making your coffees. You are cooking. You're making, butternut soup, but you are there mashing. You're making mashed potatoes. You're mashing with a fork. You're there in your kitchen working hard, right? And here's the thing about healing. Healing is the thing that's inside that box that you can either open as soon as Jesus gives it to you, or you can leave it in the corner and not open it at all. Because here's what happens when you open it. You open that box and you realize that inside is a food processor of epic proportion. It can froth your coffee. It can help you make the smoothest butternut soup. It can help you chop your onions, chop your green peppers, chop your tomatoes, chop your onions, chop your carrots. It mashes your mashed potato. So all the things that you have been cooking, the crying that you have been doing from cutting your onions yourself, can take from 5 minutes cutting onions to 30 seconds cutting an onion in your food processor. From grating your tomatoes and hurting yourself every single time on your fingers when you're grating your tomato, you put it inside the food processor, 30 seconds, you've got your tomato puree. From boiling your eggs manually and taking time and taking long for them to cook, to just putting them in the food processor and then boom, you've got boiled eggs. That is what healing is. Once you open that box of that food processor, the way you cook is different. Less time, less pain. But not only is the food that you have already been cooking better, but it even opens the door to even more food. What this means is that your life becomes easier. Once you've opened that box of healing, you function differently. Things don't hurt as much as they used to. They don't take as much effort as they used to. Things are easier. Things work better. Not only do the things that you have become better, but you become more fruitful because you've got a new variety of life open to you. And this is what many of us do. We receive this gift of healing, we leave it in the corner and we don't unbox it. Not only don't we unbox it, we don't use it. Some of us, we unbox it and we don't use it fully. But those who unbox it, embrace it, and they think different, they carry themselves different, they are more fruitful than they were ever before. Those are the ones that have accepted it and use it. So for you to heal, it's not about cutting those things out of your life. It's not even about forgetting those things in your life. It is about thinking different. Once you accept that healing, you think different. You carry yourself different. That is the miracle of healing, is actually a change of perspective. It is accepting something you have already been given. And once you accept it, you think different. You move different. You produce different. That's when you know you have truly accepted something. Number 5, how do we actually practice this? How do we practically do this in our day-to-day lives? You need to firstly note the internal conversation that is happening within you, and to understand when it is a conversation of the mind, of the ego, that wants to remind you of the bad and wants to resurrect the dead. And this can also be other people as well. It's not just yourself. It's an internal conversation, but also external conversation. And realize when there are moments when people or your internal thoughts want to resurrect the dead. Secondly, you need to affirm your forgiveness. A lot of the times we think of positive affirmations so that we can get things that we want. You know, that I attract money or that I'm going to get a promotion. But affirmation is strengthening thoughts within yourself. And sometimes when we struggle, actually all the time, when we struggle from healing, it's because we have not accepted it, meaning we have not affirmed it in yourself. So like this Bible verse that I always repeated to myself over and over again, Romans 6:6, that as Jesus died, so did my old self, and I am risen, I am new. Affirm that forgiveness. Affirm your renewal over and over and over again. And that's how you strengthen that healing. And finally, let the voice of the Holy Spirit take over. And that voice is one that affirms the good things about you and God's promises in your life, and affirms your faith and affirms that you're a good person, that good things are coming from you, that you live in a world of abundance, that you are joyful, fruitful, you have self-discipline, that you have good things, you are a good person. Reaffirm the good things about yourself. Reaffirm the good things that are coming to you in your life, that God's promises will come true, and have the faith to live out those promises. So it is about that internal conversation, knowing when is it the ego trying to hurt me and when is it the voice of the Holy Spirit trying to heal me, and accept that healing, reaffirm that healing daily, and always remember the good things about you. Let the Holy Spirit's voice take over, saying nothing but good things about you. Oh my goodness. This series, I tell you now, the series is not easy for me. However, I love it. It is challenging, and I hope that you are enjoying it just as much as I am. All right, that is it. That is it for today's video. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comment section down below which one really stood out the most for you, what really made you think, and type it down in the comment section that you're accepting healing today, that you're accepting that the old has passed away and the new has risen in you. Whew, okay. Right, we have finished. Enjoy your Sunday, beautiful people. Thank you so much for watching, and please do share this with a friend. Give this video a big thumbs up because it helps this channel grow and it helps me create more videos like this for you. So thank you so much, beautiful people, for watching. Until next time, I'm Kopano, and this is How I Do Things.